might think you know how alcohol affects your body, but the truth is way more shocking than you realize. Today, we're uncovering 5 ways that alcohol actually damages your organs, and some of these might surprise you. We know it impacts our organs, but the science behind the destruction is fascinating. So a very quick introduction, my name is Leon Sylvester, I'm the founder of soberclear.com, and we use a totally new method to help business owners and high-level professionals control their drinking in as little as 48 hours. If you want details on the program itself, go over to soberclear.com, but if you want to access a free video training that shows you how it works and how to get control of your drinking in as little as 48 hours, then just click the link in the description. It's a video that I don't publish anywhere else online, so the only way you can access it is by clicking the link down below, putting in your name and email address, and then a new video training will start playing. But that video will show you how to control your drinking quickly. Thousands upon thousands of people have already watched it, so if you do want access, just go ahead and click the link down below and watch it, but make sure you finish this video first, because this one is going to be interesting. So, firstly, alcohol raises oxidative stress. So oxidative stress is one of those terms that you can go on hearing all of your life without actually really understanding what it means. So I'll explain it for you now in a few sentences, and you'll see why this is so important. So, free radicals are a class of molecules that our cells generate as byproducts of their normal metabolism, their daily business, if you will. They are defined as atoms or molecules that contain unpaired electrons in their outer orbit. So, the problem with these free radicals is that their unpaired electrons makes them very unstable. They want to react with other compounds in order to attain the missing electrons and achieve stability. In turn, the molecules that free radicals attack lose an electron and become free radicals themselves. This then sets in motion a cascade that can have very damaging effects on our cells, as they have molecules being attacked left and right. To neutralize these free radicals, our body uses so-called antioxidants. For example, you've probably heard of vitamin C being described as an antioxidant. What this means is that it donates electrons to free radicals, in effect neutralizing them, but without becoming unstable itself. Ideally, there is a balance within our body between the levels of free radicals and antioxidants. But as the number of free radicals increases to the point where there is an actual imbalance with the antioxidants, that's when you get oxidative stress. And this is a strait where free radicals are free to roam around and cause damage. In addition to what occurs naturally in the body, most people nowadays increase their free radicals through an unhealthy lifestyle. This can include poor diet, insufficient physical activity, exposure to heavy metals, and other forms of environmental pollution, as well as the big two, smoking and drinking. See, alcohol raises oxidative stress because the process by which our body metabolizes it inevitably generates free radicals as a byproduct. And the major metabolite of alcohol, acetaldehyde, which we'll come to shortly, also generates free radicals. At the same time, there is growing evidence that alcohol impairs our antioxidant defenses, meaning it contributes to oxidative stress from both sides of the equation. Now, alcohol-related oxidative stress is system-wide, meaning it affects more or less every tissue in our body. So it's no surprise that it's linked to various health problems, including aging, heart disease, asthma, diabetes, and arthritis. At the same time, this oxidative stress can have particularly devastating effects on organs, and scientists suspect that it contributes significantly to the development of alcohol-related liver disease. Among other ways, it does this by harming the mitochondria, the energy-producing structure in liver cells. In advanced liver disease, it's thought to trigger the activation of certain genes that convert healthy tissue into collagen, leading to the so-called fibrosis, or scar tissue that is the hallmark of cirrhosis. Indeed, several studies have shown that certain markers of oxidative stress precede the initial signs of fibrosis. So secondly, let's actually look at acetaldehyde. So the bulk of ethanol that we ingest is broken down or metabolized in the liver, which is our body's natural detoxification center. Now, a family of enzymes called alcohol dehydrogenases will first convert the ethanol to acetaldehyde. This is then quickly broken down into other less biologically active waste products. Now, even though it doesn't linger around in our system for that long, the problem with acetaldehyde is that it's highly toxic. By some estimates, up to 30 times more toxic than ethanol itself. And it's not an exaggeration to say that most of the damage that drinking causes to our health is a direct result of acetaldehyde. The main problem with acetaldehyde is that it's highly reactive, meaning that it likes to interact with other molecules that it encounters inside our body, notably proteins and DNA. And by interacting, I mean forming one big tangled mess called called an adduct. Think of it like taking two different coloured sticks of modelling clay for children and kneading them together. These adducts then form abnormal but irreversible pieces of floating junk that have no place there to begin with. This in turn triggers all sorts of immune reactions from our body in an attempt to rid itself of the adducts. The end result is then inflammation and ultimately tissue damage. The adducts that acetaldehyde forms with DNA also promote mutations and ultimately cancer, which we will cover later on. Though it's not a free radical in its own right, acetaldehyde will also raise oxidative stress through encouraging the formation of free radicals. It will also attack specific organs, starting with the liver, where it is primarily synthesized. Working in tandem with oxidative stress, which we just covered, it will progress the liver disease through various stages until it sadly reaches its final end stage, cirrhosis. Over time, acetaldehyde will also damage the heart to the point of possibly inducing alcoholic cardiomyopathy. When this end state is reached, the heart muscles are stretched out of shape and the swollen heart is no longer able to effectively pump blood through the body. Cirrhosis and cardiomyopathy are both more or less irreversible and typically terminal. Inflammation is our body's natural response to various injuries, infections, and pathogens. Its purpose is to eliminate whatever it is that's causing the problem, clear out damaged cells, and initiate the healing process. Now, the problem is that when our body becomes chronically inflamed, this can lead to organ and tissue damage, autoimmune conditions, and even cancer. Some of the conditions associated with chronic inflammation include diabetes, cardiovascular disease, arthritis, allergies, and respiratory disease. It's also possible to feel fatigued, weak, have achy joints, and various skin problems. Alcohol triggers inflammatory responses, more or less throughout our body, which is why heavy drinkers spend their lives in a state of chronic inflammation. The three main sources of inflammation are 1. The ethanol itself, 2. The increased oxidative stress that we discussed earlier, as well as 3. The bacteria that leak through our gut. This last part is due to the fact that alcohol compromises the structural integrity of our gut barrier, meaning that these bacteria can then leak out into the bloodstream. Aside from stopping drinking, other lifestyle changes that you can make to reduce inflammation include losing weight, adopting a low glycemic index diet, and increasing your consumption of anti-inflammatory foods. Things like berries, leafy green vegetables, fatty fish, and certain spices like turmeric. Stopping smoking will also help as you are lowering your levels of stress. Now, let's dive into nutrient deficiency or malabsorption. See, after the mouth and esophagus, each glass of alcohol that we consume then ends up in the stomach and small intestine, where it is mostly absorbed. As alcohol interacts with the small intestine, it causes various cellular and structural changes. Notably, it interferes with the villi, the millions of tiny finger-like projections that line the small intestine and serve to absorb nutrients from the food. It also upsets the balance of the microbiota in the intestine, causing certain bacteria to proliferate out of control at the expense of others. This is called microbiota dysbiosis, and in chronic drinkers it becomes a permanent feature of the gut. Combined, these effects can lead to predictable vitamin and mineral deficiencies in heavy drinkers. Levels of vitamins A, B1, C, D, folate, magnesium, and sodium are all lowered in drinkers compared to non-drinkers. Zinc and selenium are also often compromised. Some of these deficiencies can have very severe consequences in and of themselves. For example, B1 deficiency can lead to a severe neurological condition known as Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome. Symptoms can include mental confusion as well as vision and memory problems. In late-stage alcoholism, the causes of nutrient deficiency are even more direct, where the drinkers are known to consume a large part of their caloric intake directly from alcohol, leaving little room for nutrients through food. For example, a study out of the UK looked at 30 drinkers who had been drinking equivalent of 6 drinks daily for at least 5 years. About 60% of their calories were provided by alcohol. Every single one of the drinkers consumed less than the bare minimum daily intake of folate and vitamin E. The large majority were also consuming less than the recommended daily minimum amounts of vitamins A, B1, B2, B6, C, as well as zinc and selenium. Interestingly, about a third of them were underweight and 50% had reduced muscle mass in their arms. Weight loss and muscle shrinking is a well-known phenomenon in advanced drinkers, and it's not related to any generalized calorie shortage. The reason is that when half or more of a person's calories come through alcohol, their ability to synthesize muscle proteins becomes severely compromised. Not that none of these patients had advanced liver disease. When this is present, the nutritional deficiencies really start to compound and the muscles start wasting away and it becomes more severe and things quickly spiral out of control. And now finally, let's look at mutation and the cancer risk. Alcohol being carcinogenic is no longer in dispute. Not only that, but it is one of the most potent carcinogens known to man, right up there with things like tobacco, ultraviolet radiation, and asbestos. According to the World Health Organization, more than 1 out of every 10 cancers in Europe are linked to alcohol. Worldwide, the figure is around 4%. The risk is to specific parts of the body, mostly those that alcohol and acetaldehyde come into direct contact with. These include the head and neck, where heavy drinkers have up to 80% higher risk of cancer, the esophagus with a 5-fold increase, the liver with a 2-fold increase, and the colorectal area with a 50% higher risk. Then there is breast cancer in women, where the risk increases by a whopping 60%. Now, that might not sound as much as, say, a 5-fold increase risk in the esophagus, but bear in mind that breast cancer accounts for 30% of all new cancer cases in the US, meaning that even this moderate risk increase will have a devastating effect on society. Now, the question is, how exactly does ethanol mutate our cells and increase our cancer risk? And the answer is that it happens in many different ways, more than scientists can even wrap their head around at this time. For starters, alcohol can damage various cell membranes, making the uptake of carcinogens in our environment a lot easier. Then there are organ-specific effects. In the mouth, for example, it will lower the quantity and affect the quality of our saliva, allowing carcinogenic molecules to linger longer. In women, it will raise the levels of estrogen, increasing the risk of cancerous mutations in the breast area. Acetaldehyde, the main metabolite of ethanol which we discussed earlier, is also carcinogenic. It will bind to DNA, forming stable adducts that lead to errors in replication and mutate cancer-related genes. Oxidative stress, which we also reviewed, is carcinogenic in its own right, as it indirectly contributes to the formation of DNA adducts, some of which are highly carcinogenic. Now, we've made videos on this channel about the beneficial effects of stopping drinking and how rapidly these generally come about. We've discussed how fatty liver can reverse within 3 weeks, your blood pressure in around about 1 month, and how you can regain most of the brain volume that you've lost over the span of around 1 year. And the sad news is that cancer isn't like that. It will often take many years after your last drink for your risk of cancer to drop to that of a non-drinker. For certain types of cancer, this can be as much as 30 years. Not only that, but there is some evidence that the first year or two after you stop, your cancer risk will temporarily spike. And what's even more sad is that the public doesn't even know any of this. For example, a 2015 study from England surveyed 2,100 adults, asking them to identify any health complications from drinking too much. Do you want to take a guess on how many of these people spontaneously mentioned cancer? Are you ready? It was just 12.9%. Subsequently, the respondents were straight up asked if drinking can cause cancer, and the results were just as shocking. Only 46.9% unequivocally answered yes, with another 24% saying no and 29% saying they don't know. Why do you think this is the case? Why do so few people realize just how cancerous booze is? Well, let us know in the comment section what you think, and if you click the video on the screen right now, you can learn why everybody is starting to stop drinking.